What happens when Hollywood's beloved rebel crosses paths with late night's sharpest, most ruthless host? The result? An unforgettable television moment that stunned viewers and sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. Tonight, we're breaking down the explosive showdown between Johnny Depp and Jimmy Kimmel, a clash that quickly became one of the most controversial talk show moments in recent history. Think you know how it went down? Think again. The story behind this heated encounter exposes a side of Jimmy Kimmel that network execs hoped would never see the light of day. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and drop your thoughts. In the comments, who do you think was really at fault? The evening began like any other at the Jimmy Kimmel Live studio in Los Angeles. The crowd buzzed with excitement, eager to welcome Hollywood icon Johnny Depp. Known for his magnetic presence and thoughtful interviews, Depp was there to promote his latest film, a project critics are already calling a career comeback. But what should have been a routine promo quickly spiraled into something far more revealing about the true face of late-night television. Johnny Depp entered to thunderous applause, sporting his signature eclectic style. He waved graciously, then settled into the guest chair. At first, the exchange seemed polite enough. Kimmel launched into his usual enthusiastic spiel about Depp's new movie. Yet sharp-eyed viewers noticed something off from the start. Kimmel's smile never quite reached his eyes, and his voice carried an unmistakable edge. "Johnny, welcome back," Kimmel began, leaning in with a grin that felt more predatory than warm. "It's been what, 3 years since you've been on this couch?" Depp nodded thoughtfully. "Yes, about that long. Thanks for having me back." Kimmel's tone shifted, just enough to unsettle the room. 3 years is a long time. A lot can happen in 3 years, especially in your case. Uneasy laughter rippled through the audience as the conversation veered into tense territory. Depp, ever the professional, kept his cool. "Life happens," he said with a measured smile. "But I'm grateful to be here talking about the film. It was a real labor of love for everyone involved." Kimmel barely acknowledged the comment, brushing it off with a dismissive wave. Sure, we'll get to the movie. But first, I think our audience would love to hear about the more colorful aspects of your personal life recently." The camera caught a flicker of surprise on Depp's face. A brief moment of discomfort before his calm returned. Known for his philosophical approach to interviews, Depp rarely engaged in tabloid talk. "I've always believed the work should speak for itself, Jimmy," Depp said quietly. "The characters, the stories we tell. That's what matters. In the end..." Kimmel's laugh cut sharply through the air. "Come on, Johnny. We're all friends here. You can drop the mysterious artist act. The audience wants the real story." The studio fell uncomfortably silent. This was no longer the light-hearted banter viewers expected from late night. There was something almost hostile in Kimmel's approach, pushing boundaries more to provoke than entertain. Depp shifted but stayed composed. "I don't quite follow, Jimmy. I'm here to talk about the film. I'm incredibly proud of it. The whole cast and crew poured their hearts into this project." "Right," Kimmel interrupted, eyes narrowing. "The film where you play a misunderstood outcast? Typecasting, wouldn't you say?" A collective gasp swept through the audience. Kimmel had crossed a line. Depp studied Kimmel silently, then spoke with quiet authority. "You know, Jimmy, I've always admired how talk show hosts can create a space for real conversation. It's an art, when done with respect." The weight on the word respect hung in the air, but Kimmel either missed the hint or chose to ignore it. "Speaking of art forms," Kimmel pressed on, flipping through his notes with exaggerated interest. "Let's talk about some of your more, shall we say, erratic behavior on set. I have it on good authority that your lateness alone cost one production millions of dollars." The accusation landed like a slap. The audience shifted uncomfortably, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was starting to feel like an ambush. Depp's expression stayed calm, but a weariness flickered in his eyes. "I've been fortunate to work with many incredible directors and crews throughout my career. Filmmaking is a collaboration, and every set has its own rhythm and challenges. I respect that process too much to ever intentionally disrupt it. So you're denying the reports?" Kimmel leaned in, his intensity bordering on hostile, an odd tone for what was supposed to be a promotional interview. "What I'm saying, Jimmy, is maybe we should focus on the creative side of the work, rather than unsubstantiated rumors." Depp replied evenly, his voice steady despite the hostile line of questioning. A tense silence fell. Kimmel forced a laugh and turned to the audience. "He's not going to answer that one, folks. Let's try something else." The camera caught a brief exchange of looks between Kimmel and his producer at the side of the stage. Something unspoken passed between them, but instead of easing up, Kimmel doubled down. "Let's talk about your relationship with substances over the years, Johnny. Our viewers are curious how someone can maintain such a, let's call it, vibrant lifestyle and still function professionally." The question crossed a line one even seasoned Hollywood insiders knew was off limits. In a broadcast interview, celebrity chats followed unwritten rules, and Kimmel was deliberately tearing them apart, one by one. The studio seemed to grow colder. Depp regarded Kimmel with an unreadable expression. He'd faced tough questions before, but there was something calculated about Kimmel's approach that night. "Jimmy," Depp said after a moment, his voice remarkably steady, "I've always believed that a person's private struggles should remain private. There are young people watching who may be facing their own battles. What message does it send if we treat personal difficulties like entertainment?" A few scattered applause broke out, quickly silenced by Kimmel's sharp glare at the crowd. Kimmel's face flushed slightly, clearly caught off guard by Depp's eloquence and restraint. "Well, isn't that convenient?" Kimmel shot back, his smile tightening as he hid behind feigned concern for the youth, while dodging the question entirely. "I'm just asking what everyone's thinking." The camera panned over the audience, capturing uncomfortable expressions. This wasn't the playful back-and-forth fans expected from late-night TV. Instead, the hostility radiating from the host felt disturbingly personal. "I wasn't aware I was hiding, Jimmy," Depp replied, a subtle edge finally creeping into his voice. "I came here in good faith to discuss a project that hundreds of talented people have worked on for years. If you had questions about my personal life, perhaps those could have been addressed before I agreed to appear." Kimmel laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's not how ratings work, Johnny. Nobody tunes in to hear about some art house film. They want the real stuff, the juicy details." "Is that what your audience wants?" Depp asked, turning slightly to address the crowd directly for the first time. "Or is that what you want?" The question hung in the air, sharp and direct. Some audience members shifted uncomfortably, while others nodded in quiet agreement. It was rare to see a guest push back so boldly on Kimmel's own stage. The power dynamic was unmistakably shifting. "Let's take a quick break," Kimmel announced abruptly, turning to the camera with his professional smile firmly back in place. "We'll be right back with more Johnny Depp." As the commercial break began, the studio erupted with activity. Producers huddled around Kimmel. Makeup artists hurried to touch up both men. Though the mics were off, those in the front rows could see the tension still simmering between host and guest. Depp remained seated, declining a nervous production assistant's offer of water. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes never left Kimmel. Kimmel was animatedly gesturing to his executive producer just as the cameras rolled again. His smile reappeared, refreshed, but his eyes held a sharp, determined gleam. "Welcome back, everyone. We're here with Johnny Depp, discussing his, well, interesting career choices." "Actually, Jimmy," Depp interrupted smoothly, "we haven't talked about the film at all yet." "Right," Kimmel said dismissively. "The film. Let's see. You play a troubled artist with personal demons, misunderstood by society. Stop me if you've heard this one before." The mockery was unmistakable, prompting a few uneasy laughs from the audience. "Each character has their own truth," Depp replied evenly. "Much like each interview apparently has its own agenda." The subtle jab didn't escape Kimmel's notice. His expression briefly hardened before he forced another smile. "Speaking of agendas," Kimmel said, "let's talk about your reputation for being difficult on set. I've got a quote here from a director who worked with you. They said, and I'm quoting directly, 'Johnny exists in a different reality than the rest of us.'" Depp raised an eyebrow. "And which director would that be, Jimmy?" "I'm not at liberty to say," Kimmel answered with a smug smile. "Confidential source and all that." "Convenient," Depp noted coolly, his tone steady despite the provocation. "It's remarkable how often unnamed sources have the sharpest things to say." "Are you suggesting I'm making it up?" Kimmel challenged, leaning forward aggressively. "I'm suggesting," Depp said carefully, "that journalism, even entertainment journalism, typically requires verification. But maybe the standards are different in late night." The audience audibly reacted. Kimmel's reputation for grilling guests was well known, but few had ever matched him so evenly in verbal sparring. "Let's move on," Kimmel said tightly, shuffling his note cards. "Your new film deals with themes of public perception versus reality. Given your own experience with the media, do you find it ironic that you're playing someone fighting public opinion?" The question wasn't unreasonable, but Kimmel's tone made it clear it was another trap, not a genuine inquiry. "Not ironic, no," Depp answered thoughtfully. "Perhaps all of us, in some way, experience the gap between who we are and how we're perceived. Art often explores that distance. It's what makes storytelling so powerful." For a moment, Kimmel seemed caught off guard by the sincerity, but the connection quickly dissolved as he pushed forward with his agenda. Right. Very profound," Kimmel said, dripping with sarcasm. "But let's talk about what people really want to know. Your lavish spending habits have been widely reported. 6 million on cannons to scatter someone's ashes, islands, a wine collection worth more than most people's homes. Care to comment?" A palpable tension spread through the studio. Even Kimmel's bandleader cast a concerned glance at the producer standing just off camera, worry etched on their face. "Jimmy," Depp said quietly, forcing Kimmel to lean in. "I've been in this industry long enough to understand how it works. I know controversy drives ratings. I know networks push for viral moments. But I also know there's a human cost to treating people's lives as entertainment fodder." "That's rich coming from someone who makes millions pretending," Kimmel countered sharply. "Acting isn't pretending," Depp replied, unfazed by the jab. "It's about finding truth, even in fictional circumstances, something that seems increasingly rare on television." The comment landed perfectly. Kimmel's face flushed with anger as he realized he was losing control of the interview. The audience, initially uncertain about the unusual tension, was now clearly captivated by the authentic exchange unfolding before them. "Well, Johnny," Kimmel said, his voice taking on an edge even longtime viewers would recognize as unusual. "Perhaps if you spent as much time preparing for interviews as you do philosophizing about the nature of truth, we'd have a more productive conversation." "I prepared to discuss the film," Depp replied simply. "You prepared for something else entirely." The statement hung heavy between them, a direct challenge to Kimmel's professionalism. Kimmel's expression darkened as the realization hit. "Let me be clear about something," he said, dropping any pretense of friendliness. "This is my show. My name's on it. I decide what we talk about here." Depp responded calmly. "Isn't that precisely the problem with entertainment? Today, the belief that having power means you no longer need respect or integrity." Gasps rippled through the audience. Kimmel's producer was frantically signaling from the sidelines, making the universal "cut it" gesture across his throat, but Kimmel, now visibly angry, ignored him completely. "You want to talk about respect and integrity?" Kimmel's voice rose noticeably. "That's quite rich coming from you, considering your history." The studio fell silent as Kimmel's words lingered in the air. Even the band had stopped their usual background fills, sensing the unprecedented tension on stage. "My history," Depp repeated quietly, nodding slowly. "I've never claimed to be perfect, Jimmy. The difference is, I don't sit in judgment of others while pretending to welcome them as guests." Kimmel's face contorted with barely contained rage. "Don't lecture me about hospitality. You think you can come on my show and—" "Your show," Depp interrupted, his voice calm despite the rising heat. "That's the third time you've emphasized that. Perhaps that's where the problem lies." The audience was utterly still, witnessing something rarely seen on network television: authentic conflict, stripped of scripted safety nets. "What exactly are you implying?" Kimmel demanded, his professional facade completely abandoned. "I'm not implying anything," Depp replied steadily. "I'm stating outright there's a difference between interviewing someone and ambushing them, between conversation and confrontation, between entertainment and exploitation." Kimmel jabbed a finger toward Depp. "You don't get to come here and dictate how this works. We invited you as a courtesy." "A courtesy?" Depp echoed with a sad smile. "Is that what we're calling it now?" The host's producer hurried onto the stage, whispering urgently in Kimmel's ear. Kimmel shrugged him off violently. "You know what, Johnny? I think we're done here." Kimmel abruptly turned to the camera. "We'll be right back after this break with a guest who actually appreciates the platform we provide." Depp remained seated, his expression calm and resolute rather than angry. "That's unfortunate, Jimmy. I think your audience deserved to hear about the film and the extraordinary work of everyone involved." "Security!" Kimmel called out suddenly, motioning toward Depp. "Please escort Mr. Depp off the stage." A collective gasp erupted from the audience. 2 security guards appeared from the wings, clearly uncomfortable with the task. "That won't be necessary," Depp said smoothly, rising from his chair. He buttoned his jacket and addressed the audience directly. "I'm sorry we couldn't share more about the film tonight. I hope you'll still consider supporting the incredible work of everyone involved." With a slight nod to the band and a final glance at Kimmel, Depp walked off stage, with his dignity intact, leaving the host standing alone, visibly fuming. Cut to commercial. Kimmel barked at the crew, tearing off his microphone. The cameras continued rolling several seconds longer than usual, capturing his unfiltered rage as he stormed off in the opposite direction, shouting at his producers. When the show returned from the extended break, a visibly composed but tense, Kimmel offered a brief perfunctory explanation about creative differences before introducing a hastily arranged segment to fill the remaining time. But the damage was done. Within hours, clips of the confrontation spread across social media, with viewers overwhelmingly siding with Depp's measured responses over Kimmel's increasingly hostile behavior. The incident revealed a side of late-night television that networks had long tried to conceal, the calculated artifice behind seemingly casual conversations, and the egos driving interactions viewers had been conditioned to see as friendly banter. For Depp, the confrontation paradoxically reinforced what his supporters had long claimed. Behind the tabloid caricature was a thoughtful artist who refused to be reduced to clickbait fodder, even at the cost of valuable publicity. For Kimmel, the fallout was swift and severe. Network executives called emergency meetings as sponsors expressed concern about being associated with what many called an unprovoked attack on a guest who had come in good faith. What began as an attempt to boost ratings through confrontation had instead pulled back the curtain on the toxic nature of celebrity culture and the media machine that profited from it. By standing his ground with dignity rather than matching aggression, Depp inadvertently exposed the fault lines in an industry that too often confuses controversy with content and conflict with conversation. If you found this story revealing about the true nature of entertainment media, hit subscribe now. The industry doesn't want these behind-the-scenes realities exposed, but we're committed to bringing you the unvarnished truth. Comment below. If you were in Johnny Depp's position, would you have walked away calmly or confronted Kimmel more directly? Your responses help us understand which stories matter most to you.